Hi, I'm Josh, kind of working on the SEO team at MindArc.
I'm Danika, and I'm also from MindArc. Yeah, today we just want to kind of do some myth busting and I guess discuss. We went to the Google Search Central event last week and kind of share what we learned. And yeah, kind of, we've been tracking it for the last few months. There's a lot of heavy debates going on in our office. So we thought other people might want to hear what we're talking about.
So, what did you kind of make of the event? What did you think about Search Central?
Yes, I was super stoked when they said they were coming. Josh put it into our inbox. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to go because I feel like most marketing events we go to, SEO is either never mentioned or it's like a side bit and we're actually more knowledgeable than anyone else in the room, it seems. Makes me sound really cocky. Cut that out. Um, so yeah, it was just really fun to just be amongst our peers. And even walking into the event, it was in the National Library in Sydney. And just hearing people talking about, visibility and href tags. And as we're walking through, and I was like, oh, our people. So that was fun. Yeah. What
Yeah,
did you make of just the vibe of the event?
I'd say I like the setup overall compared to a lot of other kind of networking events and just events that get hosted because Search Central is kind of like the North Star for Google and what they put out for search. And sometimes if someone's the North Star, they might not want to invite along actual day-to-day workers, testers, and we also had a lot of agency speakers as well, so other people's hands-on experience that don't just match what Google was saying, so it was quite good to get a bunch of nerds all together and get like the different viewpoints rather than just kind of one viewpoint in from one event.
I thought it was really poignant because Google had just released the Developer's Guide to GEO, and there was just so many releases that week. But that really, cut above the noise where we were like, okay, everyone's we're hearing all this advice coming straight from the horse's mouth from Google. So I felt like it was really relevant, and to be able to kind of unpack that with them. Although that being said, they did not want to talk about LLMs the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the questions people went into it with were very AI heavy. But obviously, because of the speakers being search advocates rather than AI advocates and Google Shopping and all the kind of emerging spaces, I think it kind of, for brands and us, it kind of just made us aware again that the basics are kind of what we should keep pushing for, not get kind of surrounded by the noise of everything, even though it is kind of there in the background. Yeah, so for me, I think there's a lot of noise around it that doesn't always match kind of the data, just because there's been a lot of new kind of releases, a lot of new things that we see, that brands see, and that raises a lot of kind of what questions. So, like, what is AEO? What is AI search? What is AI overviews? And then it's our job to kind of answer like the hows. So, like, how do we become visible in chatbots? How do we optimize for AI search? How do we change the strategy? And I think Google was really kind of saying that even though the what was changing, and well, at least my take on it, even though the what questions are always changing and the why we're doing it might be changing, the how we do it is kind of very kind of standard practice. So for like Search Central, their kind of goal at Google is to document kind of like crawling, indexing, and then serving. And Google's goal within that is to pretty much just organize the world's content
Mm-hmm.
and give that to people in the best way possible. So I think for us, it's kind of like a reposition on when we are getting asked kind of the what's, the hows, the whys, just always kind of keeping the focus that good SEO is kind of good. So at the event, there was obviously a lot of stats thrown at us.
Yeah.
Of all of the stats, did you find any of them interesting? Any of them different to what you'd expect?
Yeah, so I guess one was that in the US, 25% of queries get AI overviews, which we've all kind of seen. But of e-commerce queries, only 4% get AI overviews. So obviously that's something that we have to address and it's going to grow, but it's just keeping us grounded in the reality of where your e-com spend is going at the moment. And I guess another one was 94% of people who use LLMs also use Google, which I'm not surprised at all, but it's good to be reminded that people aren't removing Google. It's just a new tool that they're using. They're searching on LLMs and then they go to Google. One of them was that Google is the most trusted source of information over family and friends, which everyone thought was hilarious. But yeah, like she gave the example of we've had our parents say really questionable things, and so perhaps you don't trust them. But Google is our source of truth, and that's not going anywhere. So people are learning things from LLMs, but then they're fact-checking on Google. How about you? Anything surprise you?
To be fair, just on like the second one, I think kind of going into it, and a lot of kind of questions we get is AI going to split traffic from Google? And I think that second one just kind of showing that, you know, it's not splitting it. It's kind of just a more in-depth kind of user journey. People like to know what they want to buy a little bit more. I think there was another point that was raised about previously in search, people were often searching for cheap running shoes or price, and they were looking for affordability. And then now kind of it's flipped again. So now it's people searching for the best. So they're looking for kind of the value from the product rather than just the price. Thought that was quite a good.
Yeah, I actually think that was of the history of Google, actually. I think in the beginning, everyone at Google would Google the cheapest. And now people understand that personalization journey through Google. So we're already very much trained. So this concept of looking for the best, and which we're using LLM for, people were already doing before. And I think that's a huge point, which we already know that, I know a lot of people don't know, that Google's been using AI within the algorithm since RankBrain in 2015. So as SEOs, we've been optimizing for AI this entire time. It's just previously we got links, now we get an answer, but the systems remain the same. And I guess that was a big part of like that foundational chat they gave us, right? About crawling, indexing, surfacing, or what was it exactly?
Yeah, crawling, indexing, and then serving is the last kind of stop. So what you kind of see in the Google search results. Yeah, I quite like that because they've kind of broken it down for the traditional search, what everyone's calling it. And then they pretty much just said it very simply for all of the AI models afterwards. They pretty much just said it's the same as what we've just told you. But obviously one scroll on LinkedIn and you'd think very differently. But I think it's very kind of important to always have in the back of your mind that that's just for Google as well.
Yeah.
So the likes of GPT,
Claude.
Anthropic, those are all kind of a whole other kind of market that you can look at.
Yeah, I guess it's bringing us back to like the black hat days. Like the reason why black hat SEO was so successful in the past was because Google was just figuring out its algorithm, and ChatGPT and Claude and all of them are still now trying to figure out their algorithm. So like overnight you'd be like, a LinkedIn post, you're guaranteed to be on top, or Reddit, and then they change it and then it doesn't work. And so people are jumping on those black hat tactics, but they're not going to last. And the thing that all these tools want to do is give you the best answer, which has been Google's like aim since the beginning. So every time there's a change in an algorithm, the aim is how useful is this to the user? So is it useful to have, I don't know, a bunch of bots writing on Reddit? I don't think so.
Yeah. I was going to say I really like the when they told us what Google tells you not to do.
Yeah.
So it had like, you know, a list of things for brands, for SEOs, any marketers, whatever it may be, and it pretty much said, don't do X, don't do Y, don't do Z. Of the list, what do you remember that was kind of the biggest one for you?
Well, I guess in-house we always laugh at the concept of LLMs.txt. So hey, maybe in a month's time it will be the golden ticket. It hasn't shown that. We saw it about a year ago and everyone was freaking out. Like SEMrush even put it as like a thing that you do need, and it's still there. So it's dropping our authority scores on everyone's sites. But all the LLMs have come out and said, we're not reading this. Google has explicitly said, we're not reading this. They might, especially if you have a JavaScript super heavy site, maybe you would consider it, but I'm sure the LLMs will eventually be able to read JavaScript the way Google has. And it's just very hacky. And I think the guy said, what was it?
Yeah, so...
What was it? The down?
Well, it's over the last 2 weeks, it's gone from Shopify putting it on all websites and Google in the same week saying, don't do it.
Yeah.
And then the following week, it changed again to something, I think even not just Shopify, but for like non-e-commerce brands, so like Wix, I think they added LLMs.txt. And then this week, Shopify has changed it again, so it's completely different once again. So I think it's just, I think that list of Google, the list that Google kind of went through and said, don't do this, I think it's going to be one of them where it's always kind of changing. But I think it's always kind of good practice to kind of test for yourself or have your own kind of like opinions on things that Google do put out.
And I think that's it. Like, we're at the forefront of something here, which is really fun because there is no answers. There is no Reddit threads. Nobody has so we'll see something and you'll come in and say, oh my God, there's this release and shall we try it? But we can't see if it's been tested. And of course it's fun to test, but they'll say something is the truth, but nobody has proved that it's working, such as LLMs.txt. Yeah. How about you? Anything that you thought, okay, that's...
I don't know if it was mentioned on the list or it was kind of around the point of the event, but they actually said something to do with AI content. So most brands, most agencies kind of rely on AI content to do it kind of at scale, I'd say, or at least kind of for website work. You know, people use it for social media posts as well, just for a whole host of things. But what Google pretty much said on the day was that they don't have any intention whatsoever to decipher between AI content and human written content.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just going back to, I think it was one of the first slides on what is the goal of Google that I kind of mentioned before, about just providing, well, collecting all of the world's information and just providing that to users in the most kind of high value way. And well, long story short, Google pretty much just said, high value content is high value content, regardless of where it came from. So I think that was quite a good takeaway for, you know, kind of what we do and also what brands do. You know, writing for humans to read it, not just crawlers.
Okay, so I guess it's what Google's been saying all along. They use the EAT aspect of the algorithm, which is expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. And you might have all that. Well, you know, it's actually giving a voice to people who have that experience, because previously they would have thought, I can't write. So you're not going to get, you know, your in-house expert to talk about it. But now the in-house expert can use the LLM where they share the expertise and their experience, and the LLM will help them write it. And now imagine Google said, no, an LLM wrote it. You would lose all that fantastic knowledge, but it can tell that that is unique because it's useful. So I think that's something that I've worked on with some clients where we've moved away from the listicle, even though listicles are doing very well right now in the LLMs, but they have in-house experts. So I interview those. I write them questions and they give me their answers, and I say, do not use LLMs if you can help it, to just get everything out there, and then I use an LLM to help me clean it up. But that is authoritative, really, really unique data, and that's working well.
Yeah, I really actually quite liked how Google said that, like, you know, they're not intending to kind of decipher between the AI content and the kind of human written content, but I'd say we kind of seen it in real life on the day. So there was a guy who kind of went through a poem that he'd human written, and I'd say it was probably the most rewarded talk of the day. Like, that probably got the most praise of any. There was also another guy towards the end who did a talk on kind of AI not replacing the humans and the human value of kind of, you know, what we do in the day to day, and that kind of the technical knowledge and the testing and everything like that is all kind of on us, really. And we have to, you know, be unique in what we do and also kind of get the reward ourselves from it rather than just asking AI to take it away.
Yeah, and I guess it also brings up, if everyone can do it, no one can do it. So if everyone has an LLM doing, you know, an agentic SEO, if everyone paid for that agentic SEO, no one's going to win, because it's a what's it, game theory, I suppose. You know, we have to do something to be unique, and in the end, the person who has a human doing it's going to be the unique one. So that's good. I guess the one thing to take away from that event was that it was a Google event, and not necessarily everything that works for Google works for Claude and ChatGPT, and we have seen that play out. So what do you think we should look at as being different that we would use or do for the other
Yeah, so I think,
AIs?
in my opinion, I'd say it's kind of, I think search is just a bit of a monopoly at the minute, with Google kind of leading the pack. They've kind of got the money in the bank, or kind of data in this case, on users. They've tested everything. And I think really kind of what we learned from Google is going to be way different to what the other kind of companies tell us, purely just because those other companies are trying to bridge the gap with Google. They're doing the testing. So I think because they're doing the testing themselves, I think those are the ones where you've probably got a bit more like nuance for like what strategies you can do to win on them. Like in my eyes, but I still think Google's kind of gonna come out on top. I seen a study kind of the other day where it's 80% of shopping listings in ChatGPT come from Google Shopping. So even these other big players in the space, they're using Google's data.
Yeah.
So it pretty much just signals that Google's winning now. It's well and truly beat Bing from the past few years, and it looks like it's gonna kind of just keep carrying on.
Yeah, like I think it's a bit of an arms race, but one has got a much bigger army. Um, maybe I don't like that analogy, but yeah, I think ChatGPT got the first mover benefit, and Google kind of sat there in the background and they were a bit quiet. But I think it's because they are such a big company, they have a reputation to withhold, and they weren't going to release something that wasn't good. And they made the mistake with bringing AI overviews a little bit too soon, I think, and it was suggesting people eat cement or something. So they drew it back. Whereas ChatGPT, there was terrible things coming out, but they had nothing to lose, because they wanted that first mover advantage. And I think Google's just really showing its guns here. Like, one thing is that Gemini is the most downloaded app at the moment. It's growing by I don't know, like hundreds of percent, and ChatGPT is now really, really slowing down. Even the stock market, you can see Google going, pew, and ChatGPT is going down, which I don't think is necessarily good for someone to have a monopoly, but I do think that's the reality. And I think in the e-com world, because we're very comfortable with it, with Google, and we've been working in that, and how Google's now working with Shopify, with UCP, it's probably a good thing for us. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think kind of Shopify being involved is kind of the big win for a lot of brands if they are on Shopify to begin with. I wouldn't say it's kind of like throw your toys out the pram, if you're not on Shopify, because there is still kind of ways to win on other platforms. But I think kind of Google and Shopify, a lot of the time now, like Agentic, that was released, a whole host of technical kind of releases that are happening. You might see it in Google, and then a few days later, there's a way to get to it from Shopify, or vice versa. So I think those two being kind of the stack and like the powerhouses, I think that's kind of a win-win for brands. So for e-com brands, what would you say is the thing that they should be doing? Is it, product discoverability? Is it content discoverability? Is it something else? What do you think will kind of make them win on Google and potentially the others?
I think I'm starting to view it as like two different approaches. Like, I'd probably be optimizing for Google, and then maybe looking at a separate strategy for the other AI platforms. But I think what would, like, number one, and it's boring, but SEO fundamentals, it works. And so we can go and optimize, the techie things. Obviously, you need your technical foundations of Google, or sorry, SEO is really strong, but the HTML, like the content, is what's feeding the LLMs the information about, hey, this is, a good tennis racket for this kind of player. And I think that is not going anywhere anytime soon. Like, the more information you feed it, it loves first-party data. It likes to validate with third-party data, but it wants your first-party data. And how do you get that? Get more content on your site.
So what would you say, or for you working with a brand,
Yeah.
how would your strategies differ across kind of Google's tech, So Gemini, AI mode, AI overviews, how would that differ to the likes of ChatGPT?
I think I would really look at first where the revenue is coming from. So currently, most, if people get some wins, you have $1,000 going through ChatGPT, but you have $100,000 coming through Google. So I would split that proportionately and focus where actually the revenue is, but not excluding, like, you obviously want to be future focused. So I think SEO fundamentals will help both. Obviously, Google has claimed they want us to have good SEO. And then the other LLMs actually use Google. You can see they search Google search to get our answers. So I think SEO fundamentals across the board. And then second would be UCP readiness, maybe looking at ACP readiness once we get more information on it. But right now, most of our brands are in Shopify, and it's working with Google, so I'd be hedging my bets there. And then third, which would be digital PR. Not really an SEO piece, but I would be definitely encouraging brands to go get those mentions on third-party sites. The ChatGPT and Claude really love third-party data, but that's because, as you can see, I imagine those algorithms will change because everyone knows they love Reddit. Everyone's spamming Reddit. That's going to have to stop. So they're going to move it somewhere else. So do you really want to spend so much money spamming Reddit when they're going to just do an algorithm and change and it's all been for nothing? So I think keeping a good grounding, looking at where the money's coming from, but then also a little bit of, a little bit of excitement and putting a little bit of effort here and there and toying around with it, but, just as a side bit, not as your main focus. How about you?
So for me, I think it just varies depending on the brand. So I think for big brands, they've already got the products, they've already got the authority, they've already got the content. I think what we've found is that the product data is often the messy kind of opportunity for them. Mm-hmm. But comparing a big brand to kind of a small brand, that might have been founded 5 years ago, the story is completely different.
Yeah.
And that they should lean more on authority and content because the website's likely not got it.
Yeah.
So I think it just really depends brand to brand, and even the results we see vary industry to industry.
Yeah, I was going to say industry is a big one. Like if you're in the service industry, it's going to be very different from if you're in fashion or in something that's really technical. I think if you're a technical product, people are going to be asking lots of questions. But if it's fashion, that's very opinionated. What ChatGPT thinks looks good is not what I think looks good. So
wrapping up, what would you kind of say is the main takeaway for both you and brands?
I think for me, it's that we all work in marketing. A lot of this is clickbait. We click on the drama when it says SEO is dead or e-com is dead and everything, it's panic station. And we click it and we've read them. We've given them so much ad revenue. But in the end of the day, it's really boring, basic stuff that, that's why SEO sounds boring. I think it's fantastic. But you do the basics and you know what? Other people get bored, so they stop. But we keep doing the boring basic things and then you win. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just as long as you're testing, you're going to get something new. As long as you're trying new things and doing the old things as well.
Yeah.
I think testing is always the important part. Don't just do the new thing because someone said do the new thing. Actually test it, find out for yourself. I think that's always kind of going to win and get brands ahead and also get us ahead as well. I'd say that's, probably the most important thing for people to do, despite all the noise.
And I think that's why it's really good to be in an agency because we can test across so many different industries. And I learned so much from you and I learned so much from the team. And if I was alone in a silo, I'd be freaking out. But it's actually all grand and we're having a lot of fun fighting through the weeds, So I think it's a really exciting space coming out of that event. I felt really good. I thought, wow, okay, this is, SEO is going nowhere. But also there's so much to grow and so many more things to do and it's just keeping life interesting.
So I think that wraps up. So a lot of brands will have questions and if they do, they can reach us at hello@mindarc.com.au and myself and Danika will be more than happy to help and answer some questions along with the rest of the team. But yeah, I think that wraps up.
Thank you.
Thank you.